So, I'd like to start with Akunnah straight up. How do we bridge the gap between the budgeting and the implementation of the budget?
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe I should start by saying that, correcting an impression. You said the last time we had complete total
Implementation of the
the
budget.
military. There was no appropriation at the
Okay,
time.
yeah, National Assembly
There was no
appropriations.
the,
Yeah.
the military jackpots. They fixed what they felt was what
They could spend.
they could spend, and there was nobody to question how they spent and to what extent they spent and how much was, how they complied with that, with their projections. We all knew that they just woke up in the mornings and said they're going to build a third mainland bridge, and there was no due process. There was no bidding, any form of bidding.
Mm.
Even though, even as we speak, when you talk about due process to my mind is a perception of the powers that be, because like I told you, I was in government. I know what happens behind the scenes. Contractors usually go and meet chief executives when they have special interest. Then they come to council and they will handpick people who will talk and defend the position. And we should also realize that it is not necessarily the cheapest bidder that gets there are several considerations when awarding contracts. You could be very competent. You could give the lowest bid, but then the ultimate decision lies with the council. And when we talk about council, it's usually the tune is usually dictated by the chief executives, whether the president or
the governor.
Yes.
Yes, as the suggests gap, it means there's a gap. It means you need to bridge it. You need to close the gap. As Chuks rightly pointed out, when you mentioned that only in the military days that there was 100% implementation of budget, I don't think it is so. And since the return of democracy, generally budget, let's understand that budgets are projections. You project that I will do this, I will do that, based on certain parameters, certain factors, which at the end of the day, sometimes the reality now either alter or what have you. But the thing is, in our case, I think we have never been very serious with, first and foremost, even in the planning of the budget itself. We haven't been realistic. We haven't been scientific. We haven't been. Somebody just gets up, like the other time we were hearing that it's like photocopy. Every year you just photocopy what you had the previous year, and you say,
And
you roll it over
change
to
the
the
title.
year. You change the title, and sometimes maybe you change the figures. Sometimes you return the figures and you carry it over. And because even our legislators have not been able to understand what really the issue of budget, what budget is all about. And so most times when it comes, they apart from what the executive, whatever executive decide and put together in the name of budget, they bring to the legislators. Legislators at the federal interests, their personal interest too. Most times you hear it's more
factored into the budget.
factored. At the state is even worse. At the state, as Chuks pointed out, where he was in government, so he understands. It's what the big man, because we have cases in this country where budget was passed within a day, in a state. Yes, one day.
What state was what state?
It happened in Rivers, under Amechi, if you remember, the twilights of his days, when there was this issue of, he was having this wahala with the power that be, and a number of other states like that. Budgets are you just bring and anybody, they may have it, and the gavel goes, and it becomes a budget of a state. There are no scientific way where we copy this democracy. A legislator, a senator, a congress member, usually we have experts. So when the budget comes, the experts would...
And it's a bulky document.
Yes, the experts will sit down, subject these things to looking at a lot of things, making projections that are almost near perfect, almost near 100%. So when you are now, you because the projection are that you look at, okay, how much revenue you are expecting, what are the sources, what are the possibility of this happening and that happening, and if I get this revenue, this is what I want to spend for this or that. So when you have all these projections, even when you miss them narrowly, then the tendency is that the possibility that you are going to now get more than average of implementation. In our case, it's not so. Then personal interest, politics, and a number of other factors comes to play, which has largely been responsible for our problem with the budget. Even the timing of submitting the budget.
It's an issue.
Yes.
Yeah, much as we would like to examine that, we should also not talk in a vacuum. Like I tell people, apart from having worked in the executive arm of government, I also covered the National Assembly. And we should not forget that all the years, we've always had the courts, we've always had the judiciary, and we also had the executive in the form of military dictatorships. What has been largely missing was the National and State Assembly. So it's a relatively new concept in Nigeria. So if you look at the method of recruiting people into the National and State Assemblies, the quality of people you recruit by way of voting, when they get there, what is their background? What do they even understand? Even Nigerians don't understand the meaning of the legislature. That's why I talk about things like issues like constituency projects, because you also the lawmakers too are victims in this.
Victims?
Yeah, victims in this because you see somebody who is a rep or a senator, people come from their villages and they're in Abuja, they want to see them and they demand to see them, that we voted for this man and want to see him. You cannot, a minister is not elected, and it's appointed, yet you cannot just walk up to a minister's office and say you and demand to see him. And these lawmakers are also very careful, because I have instances of people who come to see the lawmaker and he's refused to see them, and they go back to their towns and villages and they go into beer parlors and they launch a campaign of calumny against him, that this man, we put him there and I came to Abuja, imagine for 4 days I tried to see him, he wouldn't see me, we'll vote him out next time. So because of these issues, and what do they come to see them for? Financial demands, employment, this, that. So it has put these lawmakers on a tight spot. If you are,
as we speak now.
Yes, as we speak. If you call somebody a honorable, you invite him for your child education, you invite him for this. So because of the pressures on them, they've also tried to devise means to make extra money. And then you see like in the end, it is the legislative process that suffers, because if they are members of committees, what they do, rather than exercise that oversight which they were elected to do, they go cap in hand to the agencies, to the MDAs, which they are supposed to supervise. They go and start begging.
Extortion.
Yeah, begging, cajoling, begging, and it depends. It depends on how. Sometimes there's this element of blackmail. Sometimes there's this they appeal to them. So at the end of the day, the basic reason for which they were elected, that is lawmaking, because appropriation, if we don't know, it's an act of lawmaking. You have a bill called the appropriation bill, which has to scale through, and until it's signed into law or passed or vetoed by the National or State Assemblies before it becomes law. So you see that even those people who were elected to come and participate in this process, half of the time they're not even there to research and to really know the nitty-gritty of
and provide input.
And again, for those who like talked about experts, hiring experts. How many experts in budgeting do we have in Nigeria? That's also the issue. That's an issue. Then beyond that, somebody is elected into the National or State Assembly, and in 4 years, another part of town or part of the state says it's our turn. Zoning doesn't favor you. So you see that the experience the person has gathered over, like we've had instances where
meaningfully.
Yeah, we have instances where, okay, like we have the present advisor to the president on National Assembly matters, Senator Etenang was the chairman House of Reps Committee on Business and Rules for I think 3 times. Then he was for the Senate, but now he's no longer in National Assembly. So all the ideas, all the expertise he gathered over 16 years is gone. So you have a new person in the Senate who is chairman of Business and Rules. He has to start the learning process over again. So you have chairmen of committees on appropriation, members of committees on appropriation who are new, like those who have the requisite experience. They are voted out due to perceived non-performance. Because how do we rate performance in this part of the world of our legislators? Most legislators, if they don't, what they do, they pay TV cameras money to always zoom in on them when there are debates on the floor of the House. That's how people know that they're there. Yes, if they don't talk on the floor of the House, their constituents feel that they're not representing them. There are those who I know work behind the scenes. There are those who last with several committees who attract projects, even though that's not the reason for which they were. There are those who attract a lot of projects who don't even talk on the floor of the House, on the Senate. But their constituents see them as not performing. So what happens after 4 years? They vote them out. Even for those who are seen to performing, they said no, it's not your turn. You have done your tenure. It's our part of state to produce the next. So all these are issues that at the end of the day, and who capitalizes on this? It is the civil servants.
By the end of the day.
Yes, it is the MDAs, because if you have to largely rely on them to provide these documents, to provide the figures. So you cannot work on your own. It is figures that they supply that you work on. So you and like we should understand that the legislature is not just to rubber stamp, because if you send an appropriation bill to the National or State Assembly and they endorse it, like my brother said, and they endorse it, you might as well not send it to them next time. You might as well just go ahead and. So why are they there?
How?
So and sorry, I'm taking time.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And you see, there's this issue of projects in the states, because you see that sometimes why there's also this delay. Someone who's from Anambra State, who's from a place like Agolo, that the place is always devastated by erosion. His own needs, what his people want is different. They want ecology projects there. His problem is not schools, it's not public schools. But someone from Zamfara, for instance, he wants schools. He doesn't have the kind of problems and boreholes. That's it, and irrigation projects. So there's always this trade-off. Somebody from Anambra is a member of the Committee on Appropriation. Somebody from Zamfara is a member of the Commission on Appropriation. So there's this balance they have to strike. Then the Federal Ministry of Works or of Environment thinks that they needed to spend money in Plateau, where the gorge is caused by tin mining. And maybe the guy from Plateau is not interested in that for now. He wants an airport sited or university sited in his place. So all this interplay of forces are some of the things that cause this delay. And at the end of the day,
or lack of implementation.
Lack of implementation, yes.
All right, back to Iffer. There is significant discrepancy between actual and reported expenditure for certain activities. Now, on the reporting on project status, some of the government agencies that execute projects in Nigeria tend to intentionally lower their progress reports on projects they are handling, so that they can continue to inflate costs and collect more money from the government. Some even go as far as quoting significantly higher amounts than they have actually spent on such projects.
I mean, there's no argument about that. It's a fact. It's what's happening. And that was why, in my opening, I did in a summary form, I mentioned some of these factors. Now, when, as Chuks said, because of the high rate of turnover of members to the legislature, you would find that each time a new member comes in, one, he is beginning to learn the process, the rudiments, and so he depends on the bureaucracy. And the bureaucracy, as Rufai once, when he was Minister of State, these civil servants, they have 36 years. As a politician, you have only 4 years. And when he was restructuring the FCT, where he created these mandate secretariats, this was one of the reasons he gave. So he said he has to now begin to think of ways where he can make impact within his 4 years, because the civil servant has 36 years, so he can afford to be snoring and taking his time, but he doesn't have such time. So when you come, you now have to begin to depend on them, and it is whatever they present to you, and because the legislators, so unfortunately, as he pointed out, the society too, where they are from, whether by their own doing or by default, the expectation is so high on you. So whatever resources provided for you to have experts as your legislative aides, he cuts corners, he saves resources to meet the other demands from the society. Because when you have experts working with you, no one expects that you should be an expert in all fields. But you should have experts. Yes. You have people who will guide you, who will advise you. The senator in US or the congressman in US is not an expert in every field. But because he depends on the experts who are his either aides or consultants, he is guided. So when he gets to the floor to debate, to argue, he is debating based on, from an informed point. But what do you see? The quality of the debate here do not reflect knowledge. And this is,
of debates here
do not reflect knowledge. And this is why some of us, I have been an advocate of raising the bar for qualification into the legislature. When I say qualification, I'm not talking about school qualification. Because we have situations in this country where I know of a number of young people who just left school, and the first thing they did was to go to the legislature, and no experience anywhere,
no public service experience,
no knowledge of whatsoever anywhere. And so, what do you expect? It is the person will only offer what, and people now have this misconception that going to the legislature is going there and going there to make money. They've seen as a profession, as a business, as a job.
It's not a job.
Yes. And so you will discover that the quality is not there. So the civil servant knowing this, the bureaucrats knowing this, they keep churning, pushing anything, and you go there. First, they say, okay, this is your interest. We add this for you. And somebody who see it as a job will naturally jump at it because this is project for me.
This is why he's here.
Yes. And he wants to make money, he wants to drive big cars. He wants to move around and intimidate and harass everybody. And when he enters his village, he carries police and all manner of things. Everybody is buying. You are welcome. He was talking about performance. Performance, even those quality legislators that we have seen, I can even mention them. People like Mamora, Senator Mamora. Till today, I keep wondering why Mamora is no more there. Quality legislator. But because as recently, Bajabi Amila mentioned when the Ambode matter came up, he said yes, he was a performer, but he didn't get the politics right. So politics now supersedes performance. Otherwise, you would say, why would Ambode not be getting second time?
Now, I'm talking about late preparation of budget by the government, because we're looking at implementation, we're not looking at the time frame where budgets are prepared and pushed forward as appropriation documents.
Martin, when was the 2080 budget passed? That budget, I think it was around June or July.
June.
Now,
July.
now as we speak,
for 2018
for 2018
fiscal year.
yes.
Imagine.
So as we speak,
June
I am not
June
sure.
cycle
I am not sure the implementation of that 2018 budget has even started.
started.
So usually budget is, I would have done some job this year. It is from what I have done in the ending year. Now look at it, some of the projects you can now roll them over to the next budget. So if you are preparing 2019 budget now, on what basis are you preparing 2019 budget? Because you would have looked at it. For instance, if you budget this year that, okay, I'm going to put up a structural building like this. I have done to this extent. The next, maybe I've completed the building. Maybe I'm building a studio, for instance. I've completed the building. Last year in the budget, things like the studio equipment, transmitters were not included. So I would have completed the building this year. So, okay, next year budget now. I'm going to now move to the next level of equipping it, having transmitters, studio equipment, mics, and all or whatnot. Now, if you have not done that, how then now you begin to budget for the next year? So this has been part of also the problem. And I think until we begin to understand these things and begin to take this, and as you mentioned, sometimes if you go to the assembly, how many members you see on seat? They are busy knocking at doors of MDAs, what they can make.
Like last week, the sitting couldn't move.
Yeah, so the whole problem, like now the House of Rep is having issues with microphone. Shouldn't that somebody have known that these things need maintenance since 99? And you know how sensitive these equipments are to weather and all these things. Are you saying that I know people in the National Assembly who would have known that these things need maintenance? I mean, even a human, I mean, as a human being, you know that every year you must do some medical, give yourself medical attention.
Or malaria.
Exactly. So these are the things. And I think I'm not blaming the legislators. I think the society, Nigerian society itself has a problem. I think I have always argued that there's a nexus between.
Are you on the same page, Akunnah?
No, of course. You know, it's there's this thing we did in school, sociology. You have roles and role expectation.
Yeah.
If you're a nursing mother and you have a baby and the baby is crying, people will tell you, feed your child, or so it's people get the kind of leadership they deserve. Like when I read about the house adjourning because of faulty PA system,
And I think this is the second time. Last week or so it happened.
No, but you see, the blame should be at the doorsteps of the bureaucracy.
Yes, I agree.
Because you see, you have the works department there. It's not the legislators' fault because they are not supposed to manage this
or maintain.
Yes, but it's also the problem of the civil service. Because if you check, if you look at this road we have a 50-kilometer road from Abuja to Kefi. It's the gateway to 9 states, from 9 states into Abuja. The road is about 18 years old. You drive on the road, you have potholes which would cost up to 1 or 2 million naira to fix. But you have people who work in FEMA who ply these roads every day. You have people who work in Ministry of Works who ply this road every day. They rather prefer to award a 300 billion naira contract than spend 1 million to fix this road. So the people in charge of the PA system in the National Assembly, they would rather that the system broke down completely, so a fresh contract will be awarded to supply new ones. No, it's a problem here. It's a problem if we don't get this right. And this brings me to the issue of another issue you mentioned. The uncertainty in funding these budgets.
Yes.
Because we rely mainly on crude oil. 90% of our exports, crude oil.
Yeah.
And these are things you have little or no control over. America curbs the price of crude oil, so as Saudi Arabia threatens and the price of crude oil, and then there is peace in the Middle East. The price of crude oil crashes.
That's exactly what it means.
So if you're a businessman and you are going to budget on expected revenue from things you have little or no control over, chances are that you always be disappointed. So if the price of crude oil shoots up, we have no money to spend, and it drops. So how do you? And this is why there's always been fraud in the budgeting system.
Fraud.
Yes, because you fix the benchmark of crude oil at $30 per barrel, and then crude oil goes to $50 or $60 or $70 or $80 per barrel. Then you now have to create what you call an excess crude account, which is illegal. It's not known to the Constitution. It's not known to, you understand? Because all federation accounts should be managed, and every account, every kobo can only be spent only after appropriation. But now, when you now create, when you because of the difference in the bench price of crude oil, which is our major export earner, and then sometimes you have more money even in excess crude account that even you have to spend. So there's this temptation to now dip your hand there, and for this project, for this intervention project, and the other. And the governors also come and say, no.
Let's share it.
We have this.
Let's share.
Let's share.
Anyway, gentlemen, it's 9:42. It's time we allow people to contribute to the conversation.
Well, they are. I mean, there's nothing impossible to a willing heart.
Okay.
Yes. Those elsewhere where people are getting these things, right, they do not perform any magic. It's simple. If we are determined to get these things right, those people are not from the outer space. They are not angels. They are human beings with blood and water running through their veins like us. So it is a matter of, I've decided that I will do this, and I work towards it. These are man-made issues. They are not issues of natural disaster that you say you cannot contend. So if we are serious and we make up our minds that, look, these things, henceforth, we want to put a stop to them. It's collective. I'm not talking of, those who are benefiting from this kind of system, they won't want it to stop. But if the Nigerian society as a whole, we say, look, for instance, if somebody comes, you say, I come to you, I say, I want to go and contest for senator, as for senate or rep. You begin to scrutinize me, ask me specific, not these buggers. I tell you, I will bring constituency project, I will do this, because even sometimes the legislators do put themselves into trouble. You know that you have no business implementing anything. Yours is to make laws, and you're telling somebody, I will give you road, I'll give you water.
But they have done so in a few cases.
It's not their business. First and foremost, sometimes people don't even understand why they are there. So you need to first and foremost understand what, if you want to be in the executive, go for the executive. You know that you have all the budget to implement. You know that you are going to be a legislator. You know that your duty is to make laws and do quality laws. Look at all the laws. There are a number of laws in this country today that sometimes I looked at them and I say, come on. And we have legislators. Nobody's bothered. Nobody's saying anything. They are just relaxed.
But like I said, if you went to National Assembly or State Assembly tomorrow and you helped review what they call amend 500 laws, obsolete laws, that will not earn you re-election. But if you went there and you brought boreholes and you brought transformers and roads, they'll clap for you. So that's
yeah, tragedy. I agree. That's why I say that's why I say
if you take the road from AYA to Kefi,
yes,
there's a billboard of a particular politician.
Yes, who won the PDP ticket as a result of that?
He had about 2,000 boreholes.
That's where he keep mentioning.
Advertised there.
And he's a PDP flag bearer.
I don't even know if he did that with his money or he did that with federal, because
it couldn't have been his money. It couldn't have been his money. No.
The number of projects he claimed to have done.
No governor has done such projects.
As a House of Reps member.
Yes, it couldn't have been his money. You remember last year or thereabout, where there was this back and forth over the budget between the executive, particularly the president and the assembly members.
The budget padding.
Yes, not even the famous budget padding. When the president was saying money that was supposed to complete the new airport was removed for second Niger Bridge and a number of other projects, and where these monies were channeled, some were building worship centers, some were building social centers, some for boreholes, and the rest of it. And you see, and it's like even most of these are legislators don't even. follow. I don't know whether they read back. If you remember Sarah Ochakwe, when she was Minister of Water Resources, she did one. When I heard this Abuja tremor, my mind quickly went to that. That the rate which we are sinking boreholes, we are distorting the under earth. When I hear about this tremor in Abuja, my mind quickly went to that. And I was saying, could it have been that? Because the rate of boreholes today in this country is alarming.
No public water.
Yes,
no public water.
I'm from Benue State. Makoni has a water works that could serve the state, the state capital.
Is it working?
Effectively. But guess what? The problem is reticulation. And the people in government there do not have a single idea of how to get to reticulate. Meanwhile, there are private funds ready to do these things, concessioned to them. But what do? Everybody is after what he or she can benefit.
So people keep sinking boreholes.
Exactly. You will see. I won't be shocked. This Asokoro here. Your next door, you have borehole. The next door neighbor is having borehole. The next one is having borehole. So, what are you creating? When even the borehole, my involvement with the NBGs, I learned that even this simple technology of small town water projects, that you can, if you like, sink only one borehole and then have an overhead tank and channel this water and distribute to houses.
No.
But we're not doing that.
No, we're not that oriented.
But everybody wants to show.
No, we don't have that. We don't have that orientation here. That's the sad thing about.
The truth is that lack of proper budget implementation has led to our retrogression.
It's not just even implementation. From the planning, from conception and planning. What if you know, when you want to plan a budget, okay, as a private person, okay, I want to achieve this. Then you sit down, begin to think of how to achieve it. Then you now plan. You say, okay, I am projecting that maybe I'll work here, I'll earn money here, I'll earn money here, and I'll put this money together for this project. It's simple. That's what it means. It's not even about even the implementation. For me, it's even about the planning itself from the beginning. First, vision. What do you want to achieve? I want to say, okay, by a government comes in, you have 4 years. Say, okay, by the time I'm leaving office, and that's why I was saying that, for me, if, for instance, today I decide that I'm going to be a senator or a rep member, I would have said in the next 4 years, knowing where we are from, I mean the environment we operate, if I say in the next 4 years, I want to part, but to my credit, I don't care whether I get second, I get re-elected. I want to say by the time I'm leaving completing my tenure in 4 years, I would have had the so number of laws bills that I've sponsored that will bring about certain changes. There are some bills, look, whether you are elected back or not, it will be to your credit that you have done certain revolutionary things. There are some laws that if you get them amended today, a lot of differences tend to happen in the area of security and several other things.
All right, Chuks Akunnah, we should be concluding now. Time has gone.
Yeah.
So we're signing out now. The topic we're discussing a bit abstract for our regular callers.
No, it's okay.
So
no, but
they're just enjoying themselves.
there's even this issue of the feud between the legislature and the executive, and it's all the same. Like in Anambra State, yesterday or so, there was this issue of there was this controversy over the speaker removed.
Yeah.
Because we're used to using this word impeach. You don't impeach a speaker. You remove a speaker. You only impeach members of the executive. You can impeach a governor. You can impeach a president. You can impeach a deputy governor and vice president. But when you remove a speaker, when a speaker is ousted, or senate
like
president,
in the case of Anambra,
it's called removal. It's called removal. So the issue is, if you
wait, hold on, rewind.
No. When you see the word, we're used to using impeach. You can only impeach a governor, his deputy, a president, or his vice president.
Okay.
When you remove, what you do when you oust a speaker or
a legislator,
it's called removal. It's not impeachment. It's not impeachment. But we're used. It's Nigerian English, so we say we use impeach for all.
Impeach.
When we remove
even on mainstream TV,
it's impeached. We say it has been impeached. It's wrong. It's actually removed. So the amount of resources we put into removing or installing new leadership of the House in the states and at the national level, this also takes a huge toll on the budgeting process.
Yeah.
If we recall, for the past up till this week, there was still these talks about people posting that they will remove Saraki as Senate president. So if you are the leader of a legislature in your state or at the federal level, and somebody's talking about removing you, it's self-preservation first. We're talking about saving your position first. So whatever it is, budgeting, other bills might well suffer. So why we look for people to blame, the executive, which is always at the forefront of trying to change the leadership of the legislature at federal and state levels, should also share a huge chunk of the blame. Because, I mean, let's face it, we know the kind of, in this country, we've seen where presidents have deployed huge resources to remove what they call it, to remove
senators and senate presidents.
Yeah, even in the states too. It's also worrisome because
so budgets cannot be implemented with such
with such unstable
political
legislative environment.
All right, thank you very much, Chuks Akunnah and Emma Iffer.